What is up? Welcome back to another episode of the Easy Button Real Estate Podcast with myself and Mr. Tucker Merrihew. We haven't been on the show in a while, taking a few weeks off, and I think for a lot of reasons, I've just kind of been in operator mode, actually running a business. And, this is, the podcast or social media is not what Tucker or myself do full time. So I've been in operator mode. I know Tucker's got some really exciting build going on. So on that note, Tucker, what is, we haven't recorded, I think, in a little over 2 weeks. What is going on down in Naples for you right now?
A lot. It's busy season, right? On the rental side for sure. So we got people coming and going. Did I think the best this season in terms of booking dollar amount that we'll bring in, which is good. I'm still, the vacation rental business is a strange one because, I've got 3 years of data at this point. And 2 of those years had hurricanes. One destroyed most of Naples. So it was kind of an anomaly year, and the houses that I had didn't get destroyed. So I'm trying to figure out what these houses are really supposed to make on an annual basis. And I'm almost there, but going through the next couple of months here will give me a lot more, vision in terms of what long-term I should expect from any given house in any given area. So still data gathering on that, but the good news is that we've been really busy, and we're going to be busy through the end of April at all the houses, which is great. It's when we make most of our money. But last weekend I went up to Orlando, took the kids to Universal Studio, which I personally have disdain for Orlando. I hate that place. But mainly because it's just such a weird city in Florida, because it's every place in Florida has its own flavor. Orlando, it just feels like it was built purely for tourism.
Disney World.
And so you can feel it as soon as you drive in on, the freeway, which is usually bumper to bumper, but there's just no culture to that city other than there's no culture. It's just a smorgasbord of people, and it's all different types, and then of course you got a ton of people visiting sprinkled on top, and it's just a weird place. But Universal Studios was interesting. I think it's a little dated now. I'd never been before, but now having gone to the Universal Studios park, there's multiple parks too, which gets really confusing. I think I'm good without seeing Universal Studios again. But and then we went to another park, I forget the name of it, one of the newer ones, rode some roller coasters, kids had a good time. But we're back this week, and on the real estate side, we've started construction on our new big home, which is really cool. We've had to go through a lot of pre-construction stuff. So right now we're grading the lot. So when usually here in most places, in the Northwest, when you tear down a house and you're going to build a new one, you end up taking out a lot of dirt, right? So that you can clear room for, new foundation. And so, you could have, in the Street of Dreams home we built, we took out 90 dump truck loads of dirt off of the lot before we could even, set foundation forms for the new house. Here, most of the time you're bringing fill in. So we have to get a survey done, and then we have to get which basically they identify the base floor height of the slab for the new house that you're going to build. And usually they do that on some sort of a, telephone pole or power pole that's, on a corner of the lot somewhere in the back. And then we have to bring in fill, and they have to grade up to that level, and they use lasers to make sure they do it. So we're in the process of bringing in a bunch of fill. That way, essentially, the houses here, you have to worry about flooding. So you bring them up, to a certain level so that you don't, in case shit happens. So we're grading, and then as soon as that's done, we're going to start setting forms for our foundation, and we're going to be just, running from there. So I think we'll be done. It's about 7 months build time. So, probably I don't know, September, October, something like that. We'll finish up. So, but we're hitting the ground running, and we're back doing what we do, which is build houses.
Yeah, I actually recently, kind of as a hypothesis, right, I've been running Easy Button for a long time, when we started a long time ago, and hadn't really been doing deals at scale and volume since early 2024. And obviously we have a lot of clients I talk to, and so I restarted my company HelloPad just in San Diego as a test of kind of, partially do I still have it, partially how does everything we built work, and just put a couple of callers on in San Diego, and literally I hired a sales guy who had actually wanted to come to work for us at Easy Button, had a crazy resume, but it was before we hired Nelson, and then he just had been following up with me over the years, and he moved here and he's like, hey, I think I've ran a real estate business. I've been in commercial and residential. I had a baby, I'm ready to rock. And so I
That'll do
started
it.
dumping leads on him. And 2 weeks in, he's got a deal in San Diego, but the seller decided to move to a San Diego house and sell us his LA house. So in LA, we have a deal that we sold this morning that we got for 155. It's a already permitted, partially built ADU. So we're paying the guy market value because he's already partially done the ADU, permitted it. House is massive, and we have a buyer grabbing it at 1.7. That's off a cold call lead 2 weeks in. So I think it was a cool kind of quick testament of like, no, if you have a sales guy that's really engaged with these leads and is hungry, there's a lot of money to be made. Even in hard market, I mean, there's no harder market than LA and San Diego to put a deal.
Well, that's a tough deal too to value, and recognize value, right? Because you basically have a house and a permitted, somewhat built ADU. That's kind of a tough valuation, but obviously you guys said yes to the right number to resell it that quickly to somebody else that also thought it was a great deal at that.
Funny enough, I actually just went to one of our clients, Joy, who's in LA and is an agent. And I'm like, do you have a buyer for this? Because, he'll do the list back on it. He's like, oh yeah, I got guys that buy this stuff. And then within a day, he was like, all right, we found all the permits online. Everything's permitted. Everything's good. I think your valuation's spot on. And yeah, so kind of a random cool experiment that I don't know where it'll go. Like I'm not trying to rebuild a volume wholesale business right now by any means. But the reason I actually did it is funny enough is because I know San Diego's a hard place for it, but I've been playing with the idea for a long time of trying to get into like the infill, the construction space. So I just thought that's fascinating for a long time. I have two buddies in Tennessee that do it. Obviously San Diego's very different. And so the whole reason I'm like, okay, if this works, I'll just try to go after land and find a really good GC. I don't even care if I make 10 grand on the first one. If I can find the land and just learn. So that's kind of the idea I've been spinning on. Obviously,
The only challenge that you'll run into is that you'll run out of vacant land really quick, and you'll have to go to repurposing old shit.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Because there's this pocket here in Oceanside, which is, here you can't go east because you have the mountains. You can't go south. You have the border. You can't go west. You have the ocean. You can't go north. You have the military base. And so the last kind of really unchanged, undeveloped, unbuilt section's Oceanside. So it's right before the base up north. And it's slow. It's like it's north of Encinitas, north of Carlsbad. It's slowly getting out. It's slowly growing that way. But there's a lot of infill happening right now. People buying old homes, tearing them down and putting up.
And that's north of Carlsbad, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's north of Carlsbad. Yeah, it's right before the military base. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I've driven up there and or up that stretch. As you kind of, it's still sort of San Diego, but not really. Like you're going up the PCH there, I think it is. And the closer you are to San Diego, obviously, the more expensive those homes are, and then you get a little further and a little further. But they're all beach communities. They're pretty damn cool.
So yeah, that's the update there, which I thought was pretty cool.
Well, at least you proved that our cold call leads can actually generate deals in California.
Yeah. Well, it
is it's a hard state to generate, at least from, let's call it San Francisco down, right? Or even LA down. It's difficult, but it can be done.
Yeah, the deals are bigger. Like, if for what the callers cost, like I could do just this deal this year and have a 10x return on ad spend. So I think it's one of those things of like, I think people think of real estate marketing in absolutes of like, hey, it works every month or it doesn't work at all. But I think you go into any shop around the country that's sourcing their own deals, then you'll find that they have quarters where if they're doing direct mail, they break even, and then they have quarters where they get a 6x return. And I just think people think in like too short of timelines.
That used to be my biggest argument with people that would always ask, because back in the podcasting days, I pushed a lot of direct mail, and everybody was like, "What's your ROI on this mail or in this campaign and this list?" And I'm like, okay, well, if you're going to put an ROI on it, that means you have to put a start point and an end point, right? And everybody always wanted that end point to be within like 30 days of like starting to do a campaign. And I'm like, that's not really marketing. Like marketing it's an ongoing action in your business. And it's like, you could generate a deal or a conversation that doesn't translate to a deal. And then 4 months later, you do a deal that makes you six figures. And it's like, but you decided to quit running that campaign because your ROI over 30 days wasn't sufficient. And it's like, is that the right decision? I mean, I don't think it is. I think you have a great list and you have a great, form of marketing, whatever you're doing, you just continue doing it. And eventually you're going to get a great ROI.
I put it like, we had a group call, I think it was last week's group call in our community, and I answered it this way. I'm like, people have no problem buying a flip and then waiting 6 to 8 months to get paid. People, with a lot of hard work in between. People have no problem building a home and waiting, in some places, 2 years to get paid, a year and a half to get paid, with a lot of hard work in between. But all of a sudden with marketing, it's like they want it to be this like ATM machine where you put $1 in, you get $4 back the next month.
I think people just get nervous because if it's a flip, they're like, they have this hypothetical number that they're going to get back in their head, whether or not it's real or not, who knows, but they have this number and this asset that's going to bring that number back. With marketing, a lot of people get so nervous because they're like, I don't have anything that I can like exchange for money unless a deal comes and lands, in my lap. And you kind of have to have that faith, right? Of if you're doing it right, it will work. And I think a lot of people just have challenges with that. Once they see it and they proof it a couple of times, then it becomes real easy for them to kind of have that faith. But I've always noticed that getting people kind of over the hump of just understanding that if you're doing good marketing, you're following up on the leads, and you're getting in front of enough of the right people, it always pays off. It's just, how persistent do you have to be to make it over the hump the first time?
Yeah. What do you think? What are your thoughts right now on, I guess, the market as a whole and where things are at, where they're headed now that we're, second month of the year? There hasn't been, at least the past 3, we haven't bombed anyone recently.
Yeah, not yet.
Bitcoin's down like crazy.
What's that?
Bitcoin, have you seen Bitcoin?
Yeah, I think it was down to 60 this morning. I think it's up slightly above 70 now.
Yeah.
I had a lot of people messaging me. They're like, oh, I got buy orders at 65 and whatever. And I was like, I mean, maybe it drops to 55, over the weekend. Who knows?
No one knows.
Nobody knows. Nobody knows. But either way, yeah, it's pretty volatile. But then right before we hopped on here, the Dow hit 50,000, which is insane to me that we have a record high, stock market, but we have such a dog shit real estate market. Like and the real estate drives much more of the economy than, the fictitious returns of the stock market. So, at least for normal people anyway. So I don't know. I was hoping that we would have the 10-year bond rate down below 4% at this point in the year. And we're not. We're at the same, I think it was like 4.22 or 4.23, this earlier today, which is the same place that it was 2 years ago. So we really haven't had any net change in 2 years in interest rates for the most part. And again, that's the big hinge pin for me. We got to get those rates down. We have to make borrowing money more affordable. And I think that will, be the beginning of the thaw from this kind of deeper freeze. But, we haven't picked up much at all around here in terms of absorption rate or number of properties that are going pending. And definitely not a lot of like higher end stuff for any given area is posting, going pending, which usually that means, the market is starting to improve if people are, taking the risk to buy higher end stuff in any given, pocket or neighborhood. So it's a little concerning. I looked at the numbers on in the Portland area, and they have the highest inventory level that they've had in, I don't know, 10 years that popped up in the most recent RMLS action report for the Portland metro area. They were at like 4.5 months, which is, I think it's been like, I don't even know how long, maybe more than 10 years. So that's not a good thing. It means the absorption rate has gone to shit there too, for the most part. So I think it will pick up. I'm hopeful. Obviously we're building, the biggest project that we've ever built right now. And I would like the market to be have a little more stable footing under it by the time that we actually, look to sell this thing. But it can't just change that day either. Like it's got to change a little before in order for the absorption rate to kind of maintain with the listings that keep coming on market and the houses that get finished and things like that. So I'm a little up in the air. I don't know. I was hoping to be, signs of things getting better by February, which we're in now. But to this point, I haven't seen that here in my own market, and it doesn't appear that way in the Pacific Northwest either. But I'm curious what you think.
I just think things don't make sense. And I don't think they've made sense since COVID, to be honest with you. I think pre-COVID, it was like, okay, when this hits that number, usually this happens. And then when that hit, when the stock market's hitting all-time highs, usually this means that. I just think all that went out the window in COVID. I just think things got so wonky and out of our normal rhythm, where I just don't think they're anywhere near back. And I don't know exactly what that looks like, but from the conversations I have with people, there's weird pockets in certain markets that are like even in San Diego, there's pockets where your days on market's like 14 days, 22 days. And then there's the general area where it's like 46, 44, 42. We just listed the flip in Seattle that I did the TV show on. And I think we've been on the market 30, 40 days, and it's been super slow. And that's only
it's a supply and demand thing, right?
$1 million resale. Like, that's not even a high price point for that area.
Not in Seattle, no.
So I think it's just micro pockets. And I really think the people that are masters of their market, especially, we have so many clients that are still doing a lot of deals, that they've mastered a pocket or a segment or a certain part of the market, because things are kind of normalized, and I think people need to make a living. So people are still transacting and buying and selling and flipping and doing all of that, and just accepting a lower return. But I do think that I go on Facebook and I see all these armchair economists that are like, this number hit this, so this is going to happen. And every single time right now, it does the complete opposite, or something way different than what they think.
I think people got to get over the fact that it's virtually impossible for our government to make housing cheaper. They can make it more expensive, but they can do virtually nothing to make it cheaper. The only thing that they could do, which I don't know why they don't do this. We give enough money to other countries. We sure as shit could use some of this here to stimulate our real estate market. But the only thing that they could do to make housing more affordable for, let's say, first-time homebuyers or younger people, is to let them reallocate money that they're already spending towards debt service, right? So, like, let's say if you were under 30 and you make under a certain amount of money and you buy a house in the next 18 months, you don't have to pay federal income tax for X amount of years. So now you're taking this money that you would have paid to the government and you're using it for your additional debt service so that you can afford a house, right? So there's no reason why you can't do something like that. And that makes a lot of sense. And that's kind of what, back in 2010, when Obama was president, and they had, I forget what it was called, but they basically gave people $15,000 tax credit if they bought a house. Mm-hmm. Same thing. And it stimulated the shit out of the market. And that was back when, there was a ton of foreclosures to work off still, and general sentiment about real estate was very poor, but it was enough of a carrot, to get people to get off the sidelines in droves and start buying houses. And so I don't know why we don't do that, because anybody that's just sitting around saying, oh, they're going to increase supply and they're going to make it cheaper. It's like, they can't increase supply on a federal level. You got all these state governments and municipalities and permitting. And I mean, look at Malibu, right? It burned. They were like, oh yeah, we're going to get permits real quick for everybody.
Yeah. Nope.
How'd that go? Right. And they made a national spectacle about that place after the fire. So yeah, I think once people realize that it can't get cheaper, it will only get more expensive, but there are ways to incentivize people to buy houses or give them incentives, whether it's, first-time home buyers or all the way through. Maybe if you buy a house the next 2 years, you get X number of credits against your taxes or something like that. So hopefully our government pulls their head out of their ass and does that. If we can't get, interest rates to go down, because I don't see them going down dramatically in the near future, but we shall see.
That's all very valid. Yeah, it's I think incentives are the only thing that works really, that the government has. The IRS code, there's a lot of incentives in there to try to get you to take certain actions to stimulate the economy and get tax write-offs. But to your point, I agree. I think it's my generation that really can't. Like, every single year, the average age of a first-time homeowner is going up significantly. I think it's like 40 or 41 years old right now, or like late 30s. It's crazy for the first-time homeowner.
I think it's about 40, yeah, which is nuts. You're right.
Which is insane. That's like, it's just, a lot of people already have, 3 or 4 kids, and they already are in their life and they're still renting. And I see it locally here, the only way people really can get into real estate on the first purchase, and then they can grow equity and trade into the next purchase. But the first purchase is the problem, because if you're making even $200,000 a year W-2 in San Diego, you're paying you're paying between state and federal, you're paying 35% of that, 40% of that, plus living costs here. Like, how long is it going to take you to afford the medium home price here, which is like 1.2, 1.3 million, which is above conventional loan limits. So there's no product for you for 3% down, right? It's taken you 20 years to save that if you're really conservative. So a lot of people that I know, like friends and acquaintances, their family helps them get into their first purchase. And then from there, they're able to, build some equity after 2 years, take if the market's good, that's how, like my brother built a lot of wealth doing that. He got into his first property in North Bend. Market spiked. He ended up taking his 500 tax free after 2 years, and that was kind of his nest egg that he's been able to compound. And I think that's how most of the wealth in America is built. Is like you get that first house, and you either trade up, or that becomes your retirement one day. For most people, that's how most people operate. And I think right now that's being robbed. And I think that the downstream effect with that was going to be more intense every single year that passes, as that the younger and younger generations can't get into housing. And the people that do, they keep getting older and older, but then they, die or try to sell off. But then there's, who's absorbing that inventory if they can't afford it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a big advocate of, redirecting some of our ridiculous spending on a federal level and just allow tax credits for younger people in order to, allow that money to go to debt service versus, going into a giant pot that gets misused anyway, right? For the government. And then it makes an impact not only in their lives, but in the community and their families. And, it makes them better citizens. Like the net benefit to our society is so much greater than handing, that what is a minimal amount of money to the government to spend however they see fit. So hopefully somebody figures that out, but I don't have a whole lot of faith in our government at this point for figuring out how to do anything properly. But, it's been that way for a while. With the exception of they did do this in 2010 and it worked well, but it was a short-term thing. And I think to your point, some areas are just going to be unaffordable for people to get into. And that's just going to be a reality. And you may not be able to live in San Diego. You may have to move to Escondido or somewhere else, right? And that's what I did when I first, bought a house. It wasn't a bad area, but there were still some cheap, shittier houses in a nicer area. And so
They still exist.
They still exist, right? It was on a corner on a busy road with a weird septic system and stuff like that I knew nothing about at the time, but it allowed me to get in there and get some roommates and pay the bill. But, otherwise you could just go to different areas and that's a possibility too. But even some of those are more expensive than most people can afford. But you just have to counterbalance the affordability with money that's already being taken or spent and let them reallocate that to be able to get into houses.
I think it's a privilege to live in certain areas, right? There's a reason why, when I go playing golf in Encinitas, it's all 60, 70, 80-year-old guys that are on the course. When I go play golf in Mission Valley and cross Mass DSU, it's all, it's 20, 30, 40-year-olds. So I think and that's why I think a lot of places, Florida, San Diego, there's a lot of retirees, people that are older, because it's hard to get in. And how is a kid graduating from Florida Gulf Coast in 2 years going to buy a home and in Naples and start their
they
life
can buy
there?
one in Bonita.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
15 minutes of road. But see, you have to be okay with that too, right? But I get your point. And it is, it's tough. But the other, flip side of it too is I don't know. I mean, you're kind of an anomaly for younger people these days, but there are a lot of them are, they want a simpler life and they don't want to have to, do as much, or they don't strive for as much until, maybe you get married or you knock up your girlfriend and all of a sudden you need that life. You can't live the simple life anymore. And it kind of forces your hand a little bit.
Well, I want the simple life now. I didn't back then, but now I do.
Simple life's a good life, man. It really is.
Yeah.
So but interesting conversation nonetheless. I think there's a lot that can be done. It's just unfortunate that nothing other than just trying to lower interest rates is the only lever that's even been talked about being pulled at this point.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. Well, we're gonna wrap there for today. Obviously, we could go on this topic forever, but hope you guys enjoyed the show. Kind of a tangent, kind of catching you guys up on where Tucker's at, where I'm at, and what we have going on. So, as always, you guys, we don't put paid marketing behind the show. So if you do listen, keep spreading it. We really appreciate it. And if you guys need lead flow, check out below the show, Easy Button Leads. We got some good deals going on right now to start the year for some lead flow. Obviously, our community is linked down below. We do a live Wednesday call answering your questions and a live Friday call. So you guys can come in and get a ton of support in your business as you guys start doing more deals and chasing what you want the year to look like. So until next time, we appreciate you, and you're only one deal away.